Hi everyone, my name is Tim. Thanks for coming to the channel and joining me on this new series of videos where I will attempt to create the best sounding rock songs that I can, and I'm going to do it on practically no budget. I'm going to take you guys with me through every step of the process, from laying down all of the tracks to mixing to hopefully getting it published on the streaming sites. Okay, so why should you be listening to me? That is a fair question, and the answer is, I don't know. I am a total amateur musician. I'm just a dad who spends too much time watching YouTubers, and I got it in my head that I can do that too. So I'm going to give it a shot, and we're going to see if I'm right or wrong. So Cold and Lonely Nights is the first song that I ever wrote. I had contributed to other songs in the bands I'd been in, but this was the first one that I could say was mine from start to finish. I have played it in every band I've been in since then, mainly because all of those bands have had some combination of the same 6 or 8 guys that we always wound up in the same bands together. And so everybody already knew how to play it, which is, handy when you're trying to get a set list together quickly and build up a list to be able to play. And so for whatever reason, this song has just kind of endured the ages. I came up with the idea for the song sometime in late 1988, sometime in the fall. I had been broken up with some weeks before that, and I was getting out of my car one night after I was coming home from work, and it was late, and I looked up at the sky and I saw the moon coming through the clouds, and this lyric just popped into my head. Now, you guys know when you're a teenager and you've been broken up with, or if you're in any kind of relationship at all, really, the world can feel overwhelming and incredibly dramatic. And likewise, when you're just starting out as a songwriter, you think everything is huge, everything is massive, everything you write should make Shakespeare jealous. So with that in mind, here is the lyric that I came up with. I looked through the gloom and despair of the night. I saw your eyes, and I knew that we'd be right. So I rushed inside, I picked up my guitar, and I scribbled down the lyric real quickly, and I turned on my 4-track tape deck, and sometime later I had this song more or less, almost completely written. I'll get to that in a minute. It went through a couple of changes. So the version I played at the start of the video was recorded sometime around 92 or maybe 93. It was recorded live in our drummer's basement. We were just having a practice, and we had decided to play straight through our entire set list, and we recorded it. And that is pretty much how the song remained for the majority of its lifespan. The only other major alteration that was made to it, we actually never got a recorded version of for some reason. Eric Brock and I, who was the other guitar player in our band, had gone to the music store and picked up a couple of Dunlop wah-wah pedals. And a couple days later, Eric got a hold of me, and he was super excited because he had come up with this lick using the wah-wah pedal for the chorus of Cold and Lonely Nights. It wasn't there originally, and he just came up with it. And it was just this simple little ascending wow, wow, wow kind of line. And it really added something to the song, so we left that in for a long time, but somehow we just never rolled tape on it. Also, somewhere before that 92, 93 version that I played you, we had added a guitar solo to the intro to the song. There had always been one in the middle of the song, but the one at the intro we added later on. I guess we thought the song wasn't long enough already. I guess this little quick pop rock tune needed to be almost 4 minutes long. that was our thinking. I'm not sure if it was a good idea or not. Not that the lead wasn't great. Eric played that lead for the beginning, and it was really good. I'm just not sure it was needed. But other than that, nothing was ever really changed about the song. We played it the same way over and over and over every single time. And I really don't like it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the song. It's my baby. If I'm remembered for nothing else in this life, it'd be nice to at least have somebody say, hey, he wrote a good song once. But the song never really felt finished to me. Well, why is that, Tim? Well, thank you for asking, rhetorical me. For one thing, the guitar during the verses never felt finished to me. It always felt like that was what we were playing until we got around to writing something better. That wasn't actually the case. The case was that I didn't know any better. I was still learning as a songwriter, and I just never went back and wrote anything else because after so many years of playing it that way, that just kind of what became in my mind what the song was supposed to be. But I really don't like it listening back now, and I think part of the reason is that, I came up with a chord progression, but that's kind of where it stopped. And all we did with the chord progression was just take the rhythm guitars and chug some eighth notes, jun 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 jun. And that's all it was. And I know there's a ton of songs out there from the 80s and the 90s that did that, and they did it very well, and they're wonderful songs. So it's a valid songwriting technique, but to me, in this case, it just kind of feels like lazy songwriting. So another thing I don't like is the tempo. I never really set one. I kind of always gave that authority to the drummer in the band, and it was various drummers in various bands. So this isn't a knock on the drummers. This was just a realization that was years in the making for me. Now, I have always sang the lead on this song, more or less. We had a different singer in one iteration of the band for several months, but I can't remember if he actually sang this song or if he took a break on this song and I stepped up to the mic to let him rest his voice. But still, more or less, I have always sang this song. And I always felt like I was rushing to get the lyrics out in time rather than, giving them some space to breathe and singing them like they had some meaning. I mean, I've never been a great singer. Me being the singer in any group I've worked in has never been like, Tim is a great singer. Now you better give him the mic. It's always been more a case of, out of the 4 or 5 of us here, Tim's voice sucks the least, so give him the mic. So I never had a lot of confidence as a singer. I always wound up feeling like the guy who was just doing it until someone better came along. Plus, playing and singing is not really an easy thing to do. I mean, there are songs that are easier to play and sing at the same time, but the actual job of singing and playing simultaneously is not an inherently easy thing to do. I think one of the main reasons that I never felt comfortable singing the song, even though I had written it, was that we were playing it a little bit too fast. So with all of that weighing on me, I never put it together that the reason the lyrics felt like I was barely getting them out of my mouth in time was that we were playing the song just a little bit too fast for me. I always wrote that feeling off as, Tim, you just suck. It took me years to come around to the realization that we were playing the song just a little bit too fast for me to sing effectively to. So the next chapter in the life of this song comes in 2009. Now by that time I had moved away from playing in bands. I always had it in the back of my mind that I would come back to music someday, but I had to kind of wake up to the fact that I had, in all my years of playing, really accomplished nothing. I wasn't able to hold a band together long enough to get any gigs. I hadn't made any songwriting connections to branch out into that area. I really had no clue what I was doing or really even wanted to do. So music moved from a forefront passion for me to a hobby that I did when I had time. I took my first dip into digital recording in 99 or 2000, I think probably 99, but that was towards the end really, and nothing much ever came from it. I simply became aware that digital recording was a thing now, and it seemed pretty cool. Eric and I got together one time to record one song on the new PC I had just gotten, and we thought it seemed pretty awesome. But the reality of having no money and no prospects for music won out over the dream of being a rock star. I had gotten an IT job, I got married, we had kids, we moved, we bought a house, moved away from the Cincinnati, Dayton area that I had grown up in and knew all my life, yada, yada, yada. For the next almost decade there, I really didn't play at all. I mean, I still had some gear, but all it did was take up space. My wife bought me a Line 6 amp that I wanted real badly one year for my birthday. But mainly, I would get my guitar out once every 6 months, play it and noodle around for 10, 20 minutes, and back in the case it would go. So that brings us back to 2009, and I decided that I really wanted to make a serious try again. I no longer lived around anybody that I had played with before, and I didn't really know anybody in the area that I did live. And plus, with my schedule, with a family and a job and a house, I just knew that we were never going to have time for me to join a band full-time again. But I still wanted to play. I mean, playing music, it had been dormant for a long time, but it was still there. Now, I had also been keeping up with the technology and music gear in general. I just wasn't really playing much myself. I knew that home recording gear had come a long way from the old Yamaha 4-track tape deck that I used to use. I knew that computers were far more powerful now and could give me, I could play a MIDI track that would give me authentic sounding drums rather than the horrendous drum machine sounds that I remembered from back in the early 90s. I knew that virtual synths were a thing and that studio effects like compressors and EQs and reverbs were all being done in software and being done to a very high quality, and that a lot of this stuff was either free or it was dirt cheap. So I came to the realization that the only thing holding me back from making music again was myself. And just finding the time to sit down and do it. I mean, the dream that we all knew as teenagers in the 80s and the 90s had finally come true. I mean, do you guys remember? We thought back then that the only thing that was keeping us back, we knew that the only thing that was keeping us from being huge stars was access to this high quality recording gear. And if we could just get that access, then we would all be rock stars. So I decided I would take Cold and Lonely Nights, and I would sit down, and I would take the proper amount of time and write the definitive version of this song. And it would be so great when I was done. I would call up all of my old bandmates, and I would play it for them. And from hundreds of miles away, I would hear this earth-cracking thud as their jaws dropped. So it didn't quite turn out that way. Did you ever spend so much time working on something that you just completely lose perspective on it? Because let me tell you, that is a thing that actually happened to me. Let me show you. one game. Love me, you left me, took my heart from me, and now standing in the rain at you I wanna see. Cold, lonely nights. Did you ever work so hard for so long and be convinced that it was the epitome of greatness and the absolute culmination of all your efforts? Because that's where I was when I finished that track in 2009. I had worked on this for days on end. I was meticulous about every single aspect of the song, every note I sang, every bend of the guitar string, every effects choice I made, every volume level little tweak. I was convinced that it was the greatest thing that I had ever done. I played it back a few days ago in preparation for this video series, and all I could do is cringe. I mean, it was embarrassing. Like, seriously, I know I'm not the greatest musician of all time, but what the hell was that? I have to be able to do better than that, right? I mean, surely I can do better. I have to give it a shot. I cannot let that be the final representation of the best that I can achieve, given all the technology and the resources that are available to me. So this is what I'm going to do. In this series of videos, I am going to go through every step of the process of tweaking every part of this song, and I'm going to record it on my own with the resources that I currently have available. I have to be able to do a better version of this song than I did in 2009. Have to. I'm hoping you all will join me on this journey and give me your thoughts and your input along the way. I think part of the problem before was that I was trying to just operate in a vacuum and I couldn't get any outside perspective. I couldn't see past the end of my nose and have that objectivity to say, no, that's not working. My goal by the end of this series is to have a finished radio quality track that I will publish to Spotify and to the other streaming services. I want this to be a real, honest-to-God musical release, just like the big boys do, or at least as near to it as I am capable of getting. We're going to go through signing up for distribution, maybe creating a website and setting up a domain, and we'll see what happens along the way. And if this goes well, I'm going to do more and more. That's what I want to do. Now, one of the challenges I'm going to set for myself on this journey is to use all or mostly free software. I've got no budget for this. I have no music creation budget. If I go and buy a pack of guitar strings or some MIDI cables, that money has got to come out of somewhere else in my family's household budget. And I don't think that's fair to them. So I'm going to try and do this as cheaply as I can. This project needs to be as self-sufficient as possible. And hopefully in doing that, you guys can also get some real-world idea of what all the free gear out there is capable of doing, and you can use it yourself in your own projects and in your own creations. I want to inspire you to go and create something yourself. So let's get to it. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please hit the subscribe link, turn on the notification bell so that you get the notifications at every step along the way of this process. The more of you guys that do that, and the easier it's going to be for me to keep creating this content, and we can just keep doing more and more and more. Coming up in the next part, I am going to lay down the foundation for this track. We are going to work on the drums. As soon as that part is ready, I'll link it here.